So first thing right off the bat, that is me in the thumbnail. It was me back in 2019. So obviously I was pretty lean. You might even say shredded. So basically the point of this video is to address the cardio element of trying to get lean, trying to get shredded. Should you do cardio? How much cardio should you do? First of all, there's different types of cardio, right? There's like walking, and then there's like more higher intensity cardio, like running. Basically, I'm going to be addressing like the higher intensity cardio element of this. So a lot of people think that, when they try to get leaner, they need to implement all this cardio. And that's actually not the case at all. So cardio is going to make getting leaner a lot harder. And it's going to be for a variety of reasons. The first one is the higher intensity cardio stimulus is going to affect your hunger levels. Like you're going to feel more hungry. So like think of, when you eat a bunch of sugar and you have like a sugar spike, right? Well, doing like high intensity cardio is kind of like the opposite of that. It kind of makes you feel that you have like a spike in the opposite direction. Now, I don't think that's actually what's going on, obviously, because like if your blood sugar dropped to 0, you'd probably die. So I'm not saying that's literally what's going on, but like from your perception, you perceive that you need to eat a lot more. And oftentimes you will perceive that you need to eat a lot more than the calories that you actually burned. So let's say that your cut is going really well. You're getting lean, you're making progress, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to do some high intensity cardio. Your diet, your eating is on point that day. And then, you do your high intensity cardio. And then afterward, you get really hungry. And so now you eat and you allow yourself to overeat because you're telling yourself, well, you know what? That was a really good workout. I burnt all these calories. And, even if I overeat, it's going to even out. But no, you're going to eat more than you burned, right? So at best, you're just going to stagnate. You're not going to get leaner. Okay. So yeah, the first reason cardio makes it harder to get lean / shredded is because it's going to mess with your hunger levels. The second reason is because you're adding a new variable to the process of getting leaner, which is going to make it harder. So like the first variable obviously is your diet. And you have to like be able to manipulate your diet very precisely as you get to lower and lower body fat percentages. And when you start doing higher, intensity cardio workouts, it creates more of a variation in how many calories you're burning per day, which then makes it harder to really know how many calories you should eat per day. Because like if you do like cardio 3 times out of the week and it's high intensity each time, well, if you're eating the same amount every day, you're going to feel like shit because your body is going to be starving to restore all of the reserves that it had to deplete in order to, actually be able to do that cardio. But you're just giving your body the same amount of food, right? It's not, you're going to feel like shit. Like you're just, you can do it, but it's going to make the cut a lot more miserable, right? The only other option is you eat more in response to doing cardio, but then it just goes back to point number 1 where you're just going to overeat and then it's just going to make your cut, a lot harder to do. So you want to have as few variables as possible when you're trying to get lean to make it easier to manipulate your body fat percentage and your diet. And when I say diet, I don't really like the word diet because it makes it seem like you're going on some fad diet. When I say diet, I just mean like your food selection, right? You should be eating as like a lifestyle, not as like a temporary diet. But when I say the word diet, I just mean the foods that you specifically chose to eat. Okay. So like now you have a completely new variable, right? You're doing high intensity cardio. One day you don't do cardio and you're burning X amount of calories. The next day you do high intensity cardio. Now you burn, an extra 800 calories. And then you don't even know if it's actually 800 calories because those machines aren't really that accurate. And then there's also like NEAT, which is like basically the amount of calories that you burn at rest. And that can vary from day to day. So like you don't really know what's going on with your NEAT on the days that you do cardio. So then there's that variable that you kind of have to think about too. So like there's a lot of variables, and the more variables you add, the harder it's going to be to really dial in the fat percentage that you want. Okay. So that's the second reason. You're just adding a completely new variable, making it harder on yourself. You're far better off not doing cardio and then just manipulating your diet and seeing what goes on with your fat percentage from there. And by the way, you should be eating the same foods every single day when you're trying to get really lean or shredded, because it's going to make it like exponentially easier to get leaner, because you can manipulate your diet a lot more easily. You shouldn't be eating different foods every day, because then you're never going to know, like, well, am I getting fatter because of what I ate today or yesterday or the day before? You're not going to know. So eat the same foods every single day. And, like after a month, you're eating the same foods every day and let's say you're stagnating, right? Well, it's like, okay, well, how about I just cut out the carbs from this meal, right? And then do that for a few days, like for a week. And then you do that for a week, and then you kind of see a small change. And you can really, pinpoint how those changes in your diet make you feel different, either better or worse, and also look different, either better or worse, right? So you really want to focus on the diet element, not like the cardio element, because the cardio element is just going to make it a lot harder to know how to manipulate your diet. Okay, so that's going to be reason number 2. Okay, then reason number 3 is going to be cardio is going to interfere with your recovery from resistance training. So if I or you, whoever's doing this cut, you resistance train 3 days a week, and then you're doing like high intensity cardio 3 days a week or whatever. Maybe you do it right after you train. Maybe you do it on the days that you don't train, like the off days from training. Well, here's the way your body works. Your body is going to adapt to the most intense stimulus that it's subject to. Okay. So when you go in the gym and you resistance train and you give it that high intense stimulus, well, it's going to want to like build muscle. That high intensity stimulus is going to, make it want to adapt to that high intensity stimulus. So, let's say you go to the gym the next day and you do, high intensity cardio. Now your body has to switch up its adaptation methods and address adapting to this high intensity cardio. And that's going to cut into your muscular adaptations that it's making to recover from your resistance training. So now your resistance training recovery is being compromised because it's prioritizing the cardio recovery. Now, it's not going to be as much of an issue if you're just doing like low intensity cardio. If you're doing like, if you're going on walks, that's actually a really good one, because it's a lot easier to, gauge, based on how you feel, like how many calories you're burning. It's not going to like cause like an intense spike in hunger. Walking is a really, really good form of cardio. If you're going to do any cardio, you should really do walking. It's easy on the joints. It's really good for, getting those endorphins going, maybe listen to some music. When you're running and you're listening to music, let's be honest, people talk about the runner's high. Come on, that doesn't exist. Like, we're all miserable when we run. Like we feel like we're suffocating. Like, let's be honest. But when you go on a walk, maybe like a brisk walk, like at a pretty decent pace, not like super fast, but like a decent pace, and you got earphones in, you get this like endorphin rush. Like, it feels good. It's like it's an actual like walker's high, right? So walking is a really good form of cardio. But if you do the higher intensity cardio on your days off from resistance training, your body's going to prioritize adapting to that. I'm just talking about the goal of getting lean. I'm not talking about cardio health or, endurance or anything like that. I'm talking about like getting lean, right? Losing body fat, the easiest way to do it. And the fact of the matter is that, doing higher intensity cardio is just going to make it harder. It's going to compromise your efforts. So, keep that in mind. Are you trying to get lean, or are you trying to be a football player? You know what I mean? Ask yourself that. What is your goal? What are you actually trying to do? Right? So anyways, thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe. I would appreciate it. Have a good day. Let's try to get to maybe 1,000 subscribers. I don't know. That'd be kind of fun. See you guys next time.